Freshest episode of One on One, and very happy to have Nate Oats. He is the next guest that joins the show. Coach, very kind of you to take some time out. I often say this. I think it's difficult to kind of look at you and your career and not think winner. You know, you won at Buffalo, did so in record-setting fashion. We can throw it back to your time in Detroit. You won at Romulus High, and I think you're set up to win at Alabama in what's going to be your second year as the head men's basketball coach. So I often share this, Coach, leading up to one of my first games, Alabama games this past year. I'm preparing and reading about you and the team, and I recall a great Brian Hamilton article where he described you as Nate Oats has platinum-plated confidence. And I said, I think I'm going to like talking basketball with this guy, and you're always great to talk hoops with and very generous with your time as you are now. So thanks again.
Yeah, no, it's good to be on. It might have been a little easier winning at Romulus than it's going to be here at Alabama. I just looked at the SEC schedule. You see Kentucky twice and Tennessee twice. You see, I'm like, it's a little different than playing Oak Park and River Rouge and Dearborn High. So it was fun times at Romulus. Loved it. They shooting Buffalo now. We had to get that thing rolling there with Bobby Hurley, and then when he left, yeah, we're gonna try to get it rolling here too. So it helps to get good players. Recruiting's been going well, but yeah, we trying to get the culture change here. I think we're getting it changed in the right direction.
Well, that's the major development. We've got a schedule, Coach. It's almost sounds strange to say that, but you guys released your schedule this week, and you're a head coach. There's never time, and understandably so, to reflect. But I want to ask you to reflect for a second here on the last 8 months or so. What do you envision? How gratifying do you envision that week of November 25th and the weeks leading up to it being?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, it's going to be a long time coming. I can tell you that. I mean, we're ready to play somebody else. I mean, go back to when the season got canceled, and shoot, we were in uniform. We're up there in Nashville ready to play. We're supposed to play Tennessee the first game of the day. And our guys are dressed. We're getting warmed up, about to have an hour out before the game and about to have a team meeting. And I'd left my cell phone on, the night before the NBA got canceled. And I'd called Greg Byrne, like, are you sure we're still going to play this? He's like, yeah, we're playing it. So my cell phone was on me, maybe expecting a call. I get the call, I told the team, like, game's off. Then the season gets canceled. And then, shoot, now nobody thought it was going to go this long. So we're ready to play. I mean, we've been playing against each other since they let us come back in June and start practicing. So we're ready to go.
If I can disqualify Zoom from your answer for this question, because every college program across the country has had to utilize that, right? There was a lot of remote communication in terms of running a program, but what's been your greatest innovation and your MacGyver moment? I mean, you're tasked with running a basketball program and preparing a team for a season under really stringent, immense, and necessary protocols. What was it? What's something you can point to, a strategy, a technique, just something over the last few months that you sit there and say, that's kind of how I have sustained the focus, the preparation, the team chemistry needed to prepare for a year?
Yeah, that's a great question, to be honest with you. We've tried all kinds of different, we did the video. It's good. You say Zoom, obviously the Zooms have been great to help. So initially when nobody was allowed to practice in the spring, we started doing some Zooms but we, breaking down video, taking different themes, video from the last year, giving them, if you're able to get out in the gym, if you're able to work out outside, like here's some stuff you can work on. Then we get in the summer and spread apart, individual workouts, different couple guys at a time. And, summer's for making guys better anyways. So didn't need to have the full team workouts the whole summer anyways, but now we've been able to do the full team workouts, getting going. I think, we've done a lot more inter-squad scrimmage type stuff just because, like you got to play, like you can't just have normal practices. So like we've been every Saturday for the last few weeks, we've been having an inter-squad scrimmage. We get to have referees this week for the first time instead of the GAs, so the GAs aren't getting yelled at by everybody, coaches included, for all their terrible calls. But, we've tried to mix it up, do things a little bit different than what we've done here before, just to try to make it a little more, enthusiastic, keep the energy up. Like, it's been hard just going against yourself with your own self for as long as we've been doing that.
Let's talk about this season for a second. There is a lot of excitement surrounding this program for many reasons. Your style of play that you've kind of brought to Tuscaloosa here, that's invigorated the fan base. The expectation for this team, that's invigorating. That recruiting as well. You guys have obviously made some major strides on the recruiting trail lately. What's this graph I'm hearing about that you share with recruits? What is this?
You want me to pull it up on the Zoom and show you?
Is it an arm's length away here?
No, it's right here. Listen, hold on. I just got done with a recruiting Zoom literally about 1 minute before I jumped on your Zoom. So like like you've done a lot of homework on this. So I don't even know where you get the graph we're talking about. But let me pull up. let me reopen my PowerPoint here, and let me get to. I think I know the one you're talking about. Like our style of play and like threes and pace of play and all that. Yeah, here we go.
We're also testing your screen sharing abilities right now as well.
Well, I'm not the host, so if my host knew how to enable screen sharing, I would share it with you. But Kevin, can we figure out who the host is and get him to share this?
Listen, I've never been more dejected about my hosting abilities here. I'm gonna try to figure this out. But in the meantime, yeah, what do you share with recruits and reference the graph about? Hey, this is how we're gonna play if you join us.
Yeah, so we so we just got off a recruiting Zoom with a big wing. So what we're selling them on is style of play. I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes into recruiting. You got to build a relationship with guys, which I feel like we do a pretty good job of that. I think that's how recruiting went well at Buffalo. And then, guys want to play fast. If you ask most players, would you rather play in a slow system or a up-tempo system? Well, they're going to say up-tempo. Now, once you get them and you actually make them play fast and you got to get in shape and you got to sprint every time, like, they might not give you the same answer every day after practice, but in general, guys want to play fast. So we show them pace of play graphs. And the other thing at this level, everybody we recruit at this level thinks they got a chance playing the NBA, and that's the kind of players we want to recruit. So if you don't think you can play in the NBA and you're not going to go after it and work that hard to make it to the NBA, we probably don't want to recruit you. So we show them kind of graphs of how the NBA's pace of play has gone, how ours compares to regular college basketball. 3-point rate, we were number 1 in the country in 3-pointers taken last year. We show them the graph how the NBA's gone way up in 3-point rate, how we're shooting a lot more threes than teams are shooting, and then kind of in comparison. So we show them that stuff, and we show them some video of kind of how they'd fit. We've got, different videos based on their position, kind of how we'd use them and that type of stuff. So I still, you know what, I'm going to have to get my video guy over here and let him tell you how to enable screen sharing. Somewhere on your host screen, you can enable screen sharing, because I tried to share it again and it still doesn't let me. So maybe I got to get my ops guy over here. I don't know.
And I'm going to edit this out. I'd actually, like right now, but I want to find this because I would like to have it flashed up here.
Let me go get him quick. If you can edit the whole thing out, let me go.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Just to the right of it, there should be like a little arrow.
Participants can share simultaneously.
Yep, that's the one.
I knew
right.
Adam would have it figured out. The good thing he can cut this out and edit it, because I was giving him all kinds of crap. But
you give me shit. I got to leave that in. That's too funny. All right, go ahead. I think you can share the graph with us.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to share my. Can you see it right there?
Bingo.
Pace of play in the NBA. So this is. Let me make it full screen here. All right, so you can see this graph here on the left. So 5 years ago in the NBA to right now, like there's 95.8 possessions a game to 104.1. So the NBA is playing faster. This graph right here down, the blue one right here is college, 69.1 possessions a game 5 years ago, the exact same this year. Like it's not changed a bit. But these are the 5 years I've been a head coach in Division I basketball. You can see we're significantly faster than the typical college game, which is exactly the way the NBA is trending, and we're trending upward as well. So then the next slide is 3-point shooting. So you can see 24.1 threes taken per game 5 years ago in the NBA, 34 now. And again, regular traditional, average college basketball game right there. And then, oops, my fault. That was post up right. And then you can see the red lines, the five teams I've coached. We were number one in the country in 3-pointers taken per game this year. Then the last one is post up right. We're not a heavy post up team. So the NBA doesn't post up much anymore either. We're not trying to recruit guys that are concerned with just posting up. So it's fine to show this graph. If you're a post up player, we're not recruiting you anyway. So I shouldn't say that. We got like guys that can post, but they can do other stuff in addition to post. But so if you look like this one little spike, my second year at Buffalo, we had a 6'6", 225-pound point guard. We actually posted our point guard up a fair amount. And that's why you saw that little spike. But you can kind of tell how we're, oh, shoot, there's another graph. You'll like this one too, Kevin. So this is the top 7 conferences in college basketball, which, the Power 5 plus the Big East plus the American. So vertical scales, tempo, horizontal scales, 3-point rate. So obviously you can see like Villanova, Clemson, Virginia Tech takes a lot of threes. Wisconsin takes a lot of threes, but don't play that fast. St. John's, Duke, Memphis, Arizona State, they play faster, but, Hoiberg obviously coming from the NBA is taking more threes. Marquette, Auburn, Vanderbilt with Stackhouse, obviously from the NBA is taking. But if you look, we're kind of up in a whole different stratosphere from what a lot of these teams are doing. So we kind of show them how we compare to the NBA and then how we compare to other college basketball teams. So I'm not giving you the rest of the PowerPoint, but I'll give you that one. So
well, I'm ready to commit. I hate to use the overused cliche. I do have years of eligibility left, Coach, if you're looking. But so
you're a shooter.
Well, I can shoot. See, and when you look at that,
you want to play for us.
When you're talking to like the 6'8" Alex Reese, who again who's not going to post up, wants to shoot. That's the type of player where that's going to resonate with. Like, who are the? I know you can't mention specific recruits, but like, who does this typically? How do the recruits typically respond to this? Who really grasps this?
Well, higher IQ guys like it too, right? Like, if you understand your own personal game and you're the type of player we want, like you fit into the system really well. So like shooters love it because number one in the country in 3-pointers taken per game, the floor spread. We showed them a graph showing Petty before we got here, and Petty shot 36% before we got here, shot 44% from 3 after we got here. We show them another graph with Kyra's numbers. Kyra before we got here, Kyra after we got here. Every one of his numbers went up significantly. So I think guys that are skilled that want to play, it resonates to athletes too. Athletes want to be able to run up and down the floor spread. If you've got 3-point shooters spreading the floor out, even if you yourself aren't a great 3-point shooter, you need the floor spread for you to make athletic plays up and down in transition. So shooters, guards, athletes, bigs that are skilled, exactly what we want. It resonates with most of them.
Who are your peers in this business? High school, college, NBA coaches, executives, so on and so forth. Who else really speaks the advanced statistic language like you and is kind of fluent in it? Like, who do you bounce this stuff off of? Where was this molded and shaped?
Look, most NBA guys you talk to, and we've gotten to talk to quite a few. I had one in today that kind of did a presentation. His staff was let go. He's kind of between jobs, hasn't been hired. So he was in, met with our staff for the last 2 days. Like the NBA guys get the analytics part. Most NBA front offices have analytics department that's got multiple guys in it. So like guys that I've known that have, like Fred Hoiberg, I've got Charlie Henry's one of my assistants. He was with Fred at Iowa State and with the Bulls. I wouldn't say I talked to Fred a ton, but we do talk about what we're running when we see each other. Any NBA guy that I talk to, there's an assistant with the Brooklyn Nets, Jordan Ott was the video guy when I was a high school coach. He's a video guy at Michigan State. I like to talk to him. I met Joe Mazzulla as an assistant with the Boston Celtics. I got to meet him. I like talking to him, but there's a guy up in Detroit Pistons that we trade a lot. I wouldn't say there's a ton of. Now, one of the guys I do talk to a decent amount is, and who's actually changed. He used to be all set oriented. Is Greg McDermott at Creighton. Like if you look at the way Greg coached at Northern Iowa and even Iowa State, he's completely changed how he plays at Creighton. He's playing fast up and down, and he was more calling a set every time down when he was at Northern Iowa. So I like talking to them. Obviously the Hurley brothers got me into this business, so I do like to talk to them. I'm not, I don't know if they're as big in the analytics stuff, but they do. If you look at Bobby, Arizona State played pretty fast. He likes to, we were up tempo at Buffalo. He likes playing fast. He gives his guards lots of freedom. I'm not so sure he's into, he wasn't a math major like me, but he understands. What Bobby understands is how guards want to play. I mean, he was a guard himself, one of the better ones in the country. Well, guards like to play this way. So he gives his guards a lot of freedom, and they kind of hashtag guard you there at Arizona State. So
you've got all this and over the years, right? It's buzzing all around your mind, and being a basketball person, someone like yourself, not just a coach, but consumes it at all levels. You ever watch an NBA game as it relates to this conversation about advanced stats and analytics? You ever watch a game and say, that player is so undervalued, or he needs to be used differently this way? Or do you ever do that? Or maybe even with a college game?
You know what? I don't do that so much in the NBA game. I do more in college, because I think in the NBA, one is I'm not smart enough to second guess what they're doing up there. Those guys do that. I mean, that's all they think about. They don't have to, we have academic meetings. We got all kinds of stuff at college. They get to sit there and think straight basketball 24/7. So I'm not going to question too much, but I will say in college, even sometimes with kids that maybe we lose in recruiting, and then you watch them later, like you feel like, boy, I certainly thought I could have used him a lot better than maybe what, and again, nothing wrong. Like, just there's traditional systems that fit certain way. And I think, certain guys would be really good in our system, and we're not going to recruit certain guys because I think they would be a lot better in another system. And when you get into recruiting, when I was a high school coach, I go back, I used to help kids at other high schools. Man, I remember I threw a kid in our car. We loaded the van up, some of my JUCO guys took a JUCO trip to Iowa, took them to some schools. A kid I didn't even coach ends up going to a really good junior college, first team All-American JUCO player. I was just there to help kids out. Well, I try to do the same thing in college. Let's get what's best for you. Like when we got here to Alabama, some of the guys that we inherited weren't best in the system. They were better, in a different system. Well, let's get you to a system where you can excel in, and it's probably not here. So let's help you. And I still talk to some of the guys that left. They check in with me. I check in with them. I really tried to take care of them in the right way, treat them well, do all that. But let's get you to a system where it fits you a little bit better. So more in college, I'll say it. My boy, that guy would be pretty good in our system, or, like he can really shoot, do that. I think we get him a lot more threes than maybe what he got playing in that system, but it is what it is. They make choices. They can still have really good careers wherever they end up at.
About the last one, just on this topic before we transition to something else. Where was it? When was it? And then, maybe quickly, why did you say, this is the way I want to do it? Where did it spark?
So I'll go way back to my first year as a high school coach. We first year, when we turned the stuff around, they had let the coach before me go for different reasons. I mean, he was a good coach, but he wasn't in the building. They wanted a guy in the building, and but we kind of didn't quite win enough the year before too, and whatever. We get in there, we're trying to change it around. We changed it around enough. We got them to play hard, but we lost 48-35 or 48-33. We scored either 33 or 35 points in the last game of the year. We lost in districts to team Belleville, who was our big rival. I think in my first 7 games against Belleville, I beat them once. So, they were like, they were better than us when I took over. We scored 33, disaster on offense. But again, we didn't have enough skilled players. We had one guy committed to Michigan, a kid Ryan Coleman, which, by the way, the kid's from Alabama. How crazy is that? His mother sent him up to live with his uncle in Romulus, and I got to coach. He's been down to some practices and stuff here because he's back living in the Atlanta area. It's pretty cool. But anyway, so we score mid-30s points. So I said from then on, we've got athletes. We're going to get in the gym. We're going to develop them. We're going to outwork everybody on skill development. So I feel like I kind of made my name in this business on skill development because we spend so much time in the gym turning athletes into players at Romulus. 18 kids end up go play in Division I from Romulus when I coached him there. So if you're going to take all that time and spend time with them in the gym, why turn them into robots when it's time to play in the game? It's counterintuitive in my opinion. Like if we're going to make you really skilled and you're athletic, let's open the floor up and play athletic. Well, then you start studying stuff. That was back when Cal Perry had Derrick Rose at Memphis, and I loved how open the floor was. And he had gotten in with, a guy, Vance Wahlberg, and I don't know how familiar you are with Vance. So I reached out to Vance, and this was me and my assistant, Josh Baker, back at Romulus at the time, every year took the fall, and we would try to go to an NBA training camp and to college to kind of observe, learn, whatever. If we couldn't go to both, we'd at least get one every year. So I had reached out to Vance. Vance sent me 6 DVDs of how they played at Fresno City. This was when he was still at Fresno City College before he got the job at Pepperdine. So he sent me 6 game tapes. Didn't have any instructional videos. He just sent me game tapes. So we studied how they played, me and Josh. Then we called again. Hey, he gets the job at Pepperdine. We go out for his first week of official practice. That's back when it started, October 15th every time. We were there the whole week, called in sick every day. We're out in California time, LA. We're calling in, Detroit's in Eastern time zone. We got to get up by 3 a.m. to call in by 6. So we're calling in sick every morning out in LA. And we watched the whole week. Sit out. He was great, really gracious. And I still talk to Vance. That's one of the guys. Who do you talk to? He's back in Fresno, coaching high school again, but he kind of made his tour. He was in the NBA for a while. So, and we really kind of changed how we're playing once we figured it out with Vance and the whole triple drive system and all that. And that's when we kind of really made the jump with all the analytics and stuff.
I think another thing that your teams embody is you say it, the blue collar spirit, toughness. Who's going to be the toughest? I look at your teams at Buffalo. You got dudes. They're physical. They're tough. They're fearless. Let me ask you this one. Maybe it's when you recruit or when they're playing for it and you have to refine it. How do you find the winners, the fearless ones, the tough ones? How do you find them?
It's actually a good question. I mean, we give out a hard hat after every game for whoever's got the most blue collar points. Those are based on like the most you can get is taking a charge. Like, you get points for floor dives, deflections, rebounds, blocks, steals, all the stuff that maybe doesn't highlight type stuff. This is like the dirty stuff that actually wins games. So we try to like celebrate winning plays, as you will, and we celebrate our blue collar winner more than anything after a game. We also, look at plus minus and all that stuff. But so you ask, how do you look at, I mean, when we were at Buffalo, you referenced our Buffalo team. So we had 2 guards there, Devontae Jordan and Dante Carruthers, that took more charges on ball, off the ball. I mean, they made it. If you go back and watch our Arizona game, which was the first big signature win, for us at Buffalo, we upset them in the first round of the tournament. Those guards got into the guards at Arizona so much they couldn't get the ball to DeAndre Ayton, who's the number 1 pick in the draft, enough for him to have a big enough influence. And they just created havoc by how hard they played, and they take charges on the ball. You couldn't, so they kind of those guys kind of led the group. And my teams at Romulus were always tough, gritty, hard-nosed. But I feel like our Buffalo team. So we're trying to get that here. You ask, how do you see it in recruiting? Well, I'm going to reference the recruiting call I just got off before I jumped on with you. This is a kid that we're looking, you can't go out and see him anymore, so you get film. So 2 games I got on my computer right now, this kid, I can't say his name publicly, but, based on NCAA rules. But this is a tough, hard-nosed, kid that took 3 charges in both of the games that I watched. Like immediately I called Brian, my assistant that put me on, like, we got to get on this kid. Like, he can shoot well, he's athletic. He took 6 charges in 2 games. Like, that we got to go find guys that understand what it takes to win, that are willing to put their body on the line to win games. And we got to go after kids like that. And I don't really care what their rankings are either. I mean, one of my best player at Buffalo, CJ Massenberg, we beat out Prairie View A&M for him. That was his only other, I think San Francisco had decided to take somebody else. And so he was down to Prairie View A&M or go JUCO. And I think he was leaning towards going JUCO until we came in and offered him. Well, he leaves school as, one of the all-time leading scorers, and he's blue collar. He could have played in any high major program in the country, including us at Alabama, right? Shoot, if CJ had any eligibility left, I'd take him here for sure. But he wasn't ranked, so we don't really care where the rankings are. Now we've been able to get some highly ranked kids here, but we got to make sure that they fit what we're about as well as being highly ranked.
It's kind of you, by the way, when you reference Arizona and CJ, not to mention when you rolled my Syracuse orange a couple of years ago. Thank you for not bringing that up. That was not a good.
That wasn't the first. The Syracuse win wasn't the first signature win. It might have been the biggest in Western New York, though. Like all the Buffalo fans in Western New York were ecstatic when we went in there and rolled. We should have beat them the year before. And then I'll give Boeheim a ton of credit. Like we were up with 3 minutes to go in the Carrier Dome the year before. And then he willingly scheduled us again the next year, knowing we were going to be really good. So you got to give everybody, back when I was growing, I was actually a Syracuse fan as a junior high kid back when they had, I don't know how old you are, but back when they had Stevie Thompson, Sherman Douglas throwing alley-oops to Stevie and Ronnie Cycli and Derek Coleman was from Detroit. Like I Billy Owens back in the day. Like, so I was a big fan. Lawrence Moten I used to pull my socks up when, Lawrence Moten was like the big point guard at Syracuse. So I was a Syracuse fan growing up, but everybody used to criticize Boeheim for playing a cupcake schedule. Oh, shoot, he voluntarily scheduled us again the next year when we beat him, and he didn't have to do that. So you got to give him a ton of credit. But that was the big Western New York win. The Arizona one was the year before, though.
All right, so another exciting thing, you guys may have a former player that you coached just last year become a lottery pick. That's coming up, the NBA draft. Kyra Lewis, of course, he's projected to be selected pretty high. Before I get into the Kyra stuff, I got to ask you this, because you're like we talked about, you love the game. What is a FaceTime call like with NBA Coach of the Year, Tom Thibodeau, and NBA GM Scott Perry, somebody who's nicknamed Worldwide Wes, that's William. I'm naming people in the Knicks front office, of course, their coach. Like, that's pretty cool. Like what is that like for you?
And I probably shouldn't even said that. I'm waiting for Worldwide to call me and like, what are you talking? So but he's like, I've known him since my Detroit days. He lives up in Detroit. He's actually a great guy. I mean, you don't get as far as he got in this game without being an unbelievable guy, and everybody kind of gravitates to him. So we've been friends for a while. He's obviously Cal's guy too, but like, so, if I'm not playing Kentucky, I think he's pulling for me. But so he gets, and then Scott Perry, and running the Knicks now is a Detroit guy, Detroit Pistons. And so I'd known Scott, from actually one of my assistants at Romulus played for Scott when Scott coached down at Eastern Kentucky. So the whole Scott Perry Worldwide West thing. So now they're in New York. Well, Thibs is, any coach loves Thibs. He's like coach's coach. And I didn't, Kyra's down there interviewing with them in Miami, and I get, Worldwide, like West FaceTimes, man. What's going on? What's he want to FaceTime me for? Like, most adults don't FaceTime each other, right? Like, it's coming from my daughters usually. But so I grab it. He's got, he's sitting there like, hey, I got to see, he chops it up. We got Kyra here. I didn't know. And then he's like, hey, I got somebody else want to talk to you. And Coach Thibs, like, well, that's pretty cool. He's Scott Perry, and then Kyra's all there. So, yeah, I was coaching high school back in Detroit 7 years ago. So that was kind of cool. I don't think I would have had too many of those calls back then. I will say this, man, like for those that know Wes, like Wes treated me great as a high school coach in Detroit. So that's where like, like you don't make it where Wes made it if you're big time and people like he's kind of big time in the deal. But as a high school coach, he always treated me really well. So I respect him for that. And then any of those guys back then that could have been big time that treated me great as a high school coach, like I'll help them with whatever I can help them with.
Here, I got two left for you because you have to run. You just referenced it. 7 years ago, you were a head coach of a high school program. You go from there, Division I assistant job, head coach of a Division I program, head coach of a Power 5 program, less than 10 years. Like, what did you do to set yourself up for that?
Listen, if I give you the formula for it, I'd put it in a book and I quit coaching and make millions. I will say this though, you got to get a lot of breaks in life for sure. But I'll say this. So way back, I played Division III basketball, small school, Maranatha Baptist. My dad's a professor there. I get out, coach there, go to University of Wisconsin Whitewater after a few years, and then I take a high school job. A kid named Ed Horn, that African American kid that played with me in college. That's from Detroit. Talked me into interviewing at Romulus. He was teaching at Romulus. He's back. So I take the Romulus job. I'm 27 years old. If my first few years at Romulus, if anybody in the country would have offered me a Division I assistant job anywhere, like, out in Timbuktu, I would have ran to it. I thought, Division I is it. Like if I could have been a Division I basketball assistant at the worst Division I school in the country, and that's my full-time job, I would have signed up for the rest of my life. Like back then at 27. As I started building the Romulus program, it got bigger and bigger, and you start to befriend these Division I coaches, and you realize, like, I got to the point, like, no, I'm not taking a Division I assistant job anywhere in the country. I'm going to be really picky. Bob Hurley Sr., who I didn't even know, but kind of became like, okay, this guy can turn down Division I head jobs, stay with a high school job, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I could probably stay and continue to win a lot of games at Romulus and be really happy with my basketball career because I really enjoyed it there. So about the time I got to that conclusion that I'm going to be really picky, and I actually interviewed at a few different schools in the MAC before. Bobby, we're right there in the MAC country in Michigan. So I interviewed at a couple. I got turned down at one, another one. I didn't think the time was right. And I told the coach, like, listen, I bought 5 years here in the Michigan system as a teacher. I got 9 years in. If I don't get to year 10, the 5 I bought are worthless. I'm going to get to year 10. So, like, I was at year 9. Like, so I'll say this. Do unbelievable work where you're at right now. If you're chasing the next one, to me, that doesn't work out. If you're just doing unbelievable work where you're at, now opportunities start to open. When I got to the point where I would have been satisfied being a high school coach, that's also when some opportunities start to open up. And then I'll say this too. Now, if you do want to get up here, and which I did still, but I would have been really satisfied being a high school guy, you got to make some connections. So you're going to have to work to make them too. Like I said, we were going out traveling. I drove kid EC Matthews, top 100 player that committed to the Hurleys at Rhode Island. If it wasn't for EC, I don't get in this thing. And I know that, but there was no deals made between me and the Hurleys. But I drove EC and Wes out on an unofficial visit to UConn, drove EC out past, same visit out to Rhode Island in my own car, drove back through the night. Like you got to make some sacrifices. Well, if I didn't take it, he committed to Rhode Island without an official visit. He committed like a few months later off the unofficial. I also drove kids to Iowa State. I drove them all over the country to take visits. If you're not going to work hard to build connections, you're probably not getting to the next step either, because a lot of it's, who you know almost more than what you know. But you better know what you're doing when who you know gives you a shot, because then if you don't know what you're doing when you get, and you never know when the shot's coming. So if you don't know what you're doing when you get your shot's done. You're not getting a second one a lot of times.
Yeah, and it's ultra gratifying and inspiring to see where you've gone. EC and Danny Hurley win at Rhode Island, when he goes there. So it's pretty incredible. I'll end this the way we started. Brian Hamilton, that's how he describes you. You got this platinum plate of confidence. Where does that come from? Where does that come from for you?
I don't know if I would describe myself like that. I think there's a lot of second guessing, a lot. Maybe I come across that way. I don't mind talking. I'll say this though: if you study the game and you do your homework, it's the same thing I'm going to tell our players. Like I want our players playing super ultra confident. Like I don't want them second guessing. Was this, if they're looking to the bench at me when they shoot a shot, like I've screwed up. Like I haven't given them enough confidence that they need. So if you haven't coached them to be confident, play confident, if you watch us play Arizona, we were pretty confident. We came in, we didn't think twice about shooting any kind of open shots or any shot period in that game. But I tell our players the confidence comes from you putting in thousands of hours worth of work. We're reading here. This is great. I've got a book right here. Just give a little plug for Josh Metcalf. Win in the Dark. So we're reading this book as a team right now. We read books as a team like every year. We read another Metcalf book. We read John Gordon, like some other stuff. But so the deal with that is put in all the work in the dark when nobody's watching so that you got all the confidence in the world when it's time. So when we went into the Arizona game, I really did. And I had to convince myself that we were going to beat them, because when we first got the draw, I didn't think we could beat them. But then, I wasn't very happy. If you go look at the video when we got we're at that restaurant Santora's there in Buffalo, and we get the draw, and I was like, man, we got screwed. Like, we shouldn't have been, deserved to be a 13. We were better than that. They were way better than a 4. We're a 13 and get the best 4 seed in the history of the tournament. Like, in my opinion, like, so I wasn't very happy. But then I get to the office that Sunday night, and then you start studying it. Like, you better figure out how you're going to win, and you better convince yourself you're going to win before you walk. So that we didn't have a team meeting. We left Santor. All right, we'll meet you on Monday. We spent a lot of time Sunday night. After I got myself convinced how we're going to beat them, then I walked in with this. All right, we're going to win this game, and this is how we're going to do it. I told them we're going to shoot 53s. Like, I said, if we shoot, I think we ended up going 15 or 30. We didn't shoot 50. But the point was, we're not driving the ball in and scoring on DeAndre Ayton every day. We're spreading the floor out like we play that way anyways. But I think the work you put in before you get to when maybe the confidence shows is going to give you the confidence to where but shoot, I'm not real confident we're going to win all these SEC games when that schedule's coming out right now. I got some work to do between now and that first SEC game. I know that.
Well, enjoy it. Insightful, impactful stuff as expected from you, Coach. Nate Oats, kind enough to join us here. This has been great. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Been fun. Thanks, Kevin.